Hey y'all, it's me Laura. Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time, here are your jazz hands. Welcome. So today we're here for a little bit of a story time and a little bit of a rant. It's all going to be rolled together and we're talking about my relationship with food and dieting and my eating disorder. Woo! Exciting times. It feels hard for me to make this video. I've been kind of putting it off and I'm finally like, Laura Burns, just do it. But it also feels really important for me to make this video because I think it's important for me to share my story and to put it out there. If one person watches this and goes, oh my gosh, you know, watching this helps me not feel so alone, it helps me not feel like a weirdo or whatever. If this helps anyone, then it's worth it. But just so you know, this is hard. Well, these videos sometimes are difficult for me to make, so if I like make a dumb joke or whatever, like that's totally my defense mechanism kicking in. So with that disclaimer, I apologize for any dad jokes that are coming. Let's get into it. So I want to give you a brief, and I'll try to be as brief as possible, outline of my relationship with food and dieting from the time that I can remember as a child up through now, talk about my eating disorder, and then go, like really just go in for the rant that I have. Spoiler alert, the rant is about Weight Watchers and I'm pissed. And I think everyone should be pissed because it's just diet culture at its finest. So here we go. I always say I was the fat kid, but I wasn't actually fat until kind of towards the middle of elementary school. So I mean, from a very young age, I was fat. I was the fattest kid in class, but I don't think it really started. Like I have a school picture of me from like first grade, maybe second grade, and I'm thin. And I always look at that and I'm like, weird, because I know myself as a fat person. So seeing like skinny little kid Laura is like, oh, interesting. So for all intents and purposes, I have always been the fat kid and I've always liked to eat. I mean, everybody likes to eat, but like, you know, I really like food a lot. I love, like now in my life, I love cooking and trying new foods. Back then, you know, I wasn't into cooking because I was a child, but, and they didn't have like MasterChef Junior. Anyway, so, I liked food and it was a good like emotional support for me. So from a very young age, I learned from, you know, the world that like, you know, you treat yourself with food. You, you know, soothe your emotional pain with food. And you see that modeled in TV and movies and in magazines, like in the culture, people talk about that. And, so my family was really, has always been very supportive of me. They're not body shamers. They're not, they don't, as an adult now, you know, like they're not like, they don't comment on my weight. They don't tell me to lose weight. They don't, you know, they don't comment on my body. They're very supportive and loving. So when I was a child and I was the fat child, my parents did not want to like, I don't know, screw me up or give me a complex. And so they were very, I remember they were very conscious of not drawing too much attention to my weight or how much I was eating. And I appreciate that it probably means that I'm like less screwed up than I could have been. But I know that the doctor that my pediatrician probably told them, you know, that I needed to lose weight. I did get taken to Weight Watchers. I don't remember how young I was when I went, but I was young. I was maybe in 6th grade is when I, you know, started going to Weight Watchers. I'm not sure. And I was into it. I totally bought into it. I was like, yeah, this is great. I was trying to earn my little button that said, you know, like I lost this many pounds. Like, I bought into the fact that I needed to lose weight, and that really contributed to my lack of self-esteem. I never felt pretty or wanted. Like boys never talked to me the way that they would talk to some of my friends who were, you know, like freaking gorgeous, of course, and thin and, you know, conventionally attractive and white. And so my identity also plays into this, like as an Asian American person. If you don't know, I'm half Japanese. And so and especially when I was younger, it looked very Asian. And in general, like the skinnier I am, the more like Asian I look, although I look Asian all the time because I am Asian. But when I'm skinnier, I look like more like people's ideal or, you know, idealized picture of what an Asian person looks like. So I just felt very different from everyone, and my looks were not validated. I mean, they were like validated by my family, you know, who would always say nice things to me. But as you know, like your family's compliments, while they're nice and like deep down in my core are helpful, like are not helpful on a day-to-day, like in the day-to-day. Like I'm trying to go to school and like feel cute. Like I want this boy to like me. Like my dad telling me that I'm beautiful is not helpful. So yeah, I just, and even before junior high, even before the Weight Watchers, like I just, even in elementary school, like had a really low self-worth. And isn't that sad? Like I say that so casually, but like 4th grade, 5th grade me, oh, I got picked on because of my weight. And also 5th grade, I had a really unfortunate perm and asymmetrical haircut. What? It was not a good year for me. It was not a good yearbook photo for me. I also switched schools. I went from private school to my first public school in 5th grade. So 5th grade was a super hard year. And then I went into junior high, and those 3 years were like the worst years of my life. I was picked on. I was made fun of for my weight. I was made fun of for my slanty eyes. I was made fun of for my fat feet. I still remember this one boy. I remember his name, but I won't say it. It was the 90s. I was wearing Mary Janes and little, maybe socks, maybe not. I'm not sure. But you know, when you have fat feet and your shoes aren't a wide width shoe, or they're a little tight, you know, like your skin might not lay flat under the surface of the shoe. Anyway, you know, like it might like kind of puff up through the middle. Does that make sense? I'm not explaining it well. Anyway, this guy totally made fun of my fat feet. And to this day, I'm very sensitive about my feet and like them looking like they're exploding out of a shoe. And like, I'm sure that guy never thought about that comment again, but I'm like living with it for the rest of my life. Anyway, so junior high was really bad. We did Weight Watchers. I was taken to Overeaters Anonymous, you know, and nothing worked. I would go to summer camp, and in the summer I would lose weight because I'm like running around all day because you have to. And then I would come back and everybody would be like, oh, you look so great. Oh my God. Oh. And then I would gain it back because I would go back to my regular life where I'm not running around, you know, for 12 hours a day. And like just eating from the salad bar, because I would just eat from the salad bar. And I told everyone it was because I was a vegetarian, which I was a vegetarian, but it was really because I was trying to lose weight, because I craved that validation that I got when I would come back from summer camp and people went bananas over how much weight I had lost. Like, how screwed up is that? Like, let me just be a child and run around, enjoy summer camp and eat whatever I want. No, all I would eat is from the salad bar. I would only drink the water. I wouldn't drink the juice or like the Kool-Aid stuff. I was so obsessed with losing as much weight as I could by the time that I went back to school, in hopes that somebody would like me. And then nobody still ever liked me. Or if they did, they never talked to me. They never, you know, like, whatever. In junior high, people were going on little dates. I mean, there were people doing a lot more than going on dates, but I was just like, somebody hold my hand, somebody give me a kiss, somebody just like be nice to me. And I had a group of friends who I thought were like, you know, ride or die, like really good friends. Turns out they were, they made fun of me behind my back and made up stories. They said that I smelled. They said that I was gross. Like, they called me fish. This is like really emotional, like junior high. I found a note one time that they had been writing. It was like a collective group note that had been passed around, and my nickname was Fish because they said I was so fat that I smelled like fish, which, like, BT dubs, I did not. And even if I did, like, that's so rude. You're supposed to be my best friends. Anyway, and I know I didn't smell because I was hypersensitive. I took, you know, I showered every day, and that was like my like Bath and Body Works period. So I always had like those sprays and like, I mean, not that I need to validate to you that I didn't smell like fish in like 7th grade. Anyway, So yeah, I just looked different from everyone. I was, you know, the fattest one in any group, the fattest one in the class, the fattest one on my dance team. Yeah, I like how I said this would be brief. It's not going to be brief. And then I even had a teacher one time in junior high. She was the theater teacher at my junior high. And I was on, like, I had like a library assistant period where I was just like, I would go around and collect the books from the book drop. And so I was in the halls with my little cart of books, you know, opening the book drop and putting them in. And this teacher came up to me she is a big woman. I don't know like what size she wore, because back then, like in relation to me, like adults, I don't know, it was hard. She was probably the size that I am now, to be honest. And she came up to me, and it was like towards the beginning of the year. I'd had a particularly good summer of losing weight. And she was like, I just wanted to say you look so great. You lost so much weight. And I was like, oh, thanks. You know, I loved it. I soaked up the validation, the attention, the compliments. Even though like now I'm just like, oh, that's so damaging. And then it turned from like her complimenting me and congratulating me. And she was like, don't gain it back. I see that you always gain it back. Don't gain it back, or else you're going to end up like me. And I don't want that for you. And it's like, I'm sure she was like trying to do something nice and tell me like, you know, she obviously had issues, and she's like, don't be like me. I don't want you to end up like me. She clearly like did not like herself, and she didn't love her body. And so she was trying to spare me from this life of being, you know, a gross fat person. And it was super traumatic for me. I've never been good. I'm still not to this day good at things in the moment. I just freeze. I freeze, and I don't run, and I don't fight back. I just freeze, and people spew all their stuff at me, and they're mean, and I'm just like, oh, and then they go away. It's like, you know, people would always talk about fight or flight, and I'm like, that's not me. And then finally they came out with the fight, flight, or freeze theory, and I'm like, yes, that is me. I am a freezer for sure. So she said all this stuff. It was traumatic. Like, I still think about it sometimes, and I'm just like, God, lady, like, thank you for putting all your stuff on me. Like, I needed more weird body image feelings. So yeah, and of course I gained the weight back, you know, blah, blah, blah. In high school, and so I thought then that I was like the size that I am now. But like then I was like a 14, or in junior high. No, in junior high I was probably like a 10, maybe a 12. When I went into high school, I have pictures of me from freshman year. I look like I'm about like maybe a 14, 16. I thought that I was, you know, a 28, 30. And back then that was like horrifying to think about. And now I'm like, whatevs. And I see pictures and I'm like, oh my God, I was so beautiful. And I hated myself so much. Ugh. It's so sad because I spent so much time hating myself when I should have been having fun. I should have been, you know, studying and hanging out with my friends and like having that high school experience. But instead, you know, I spent high school hating myself and trying to be funny so that people would like me, and being really armored and really defensive. And the group of friends that I had, I was the fattest one, of course. And I became known like throughout high school, and I went to 3 high schools. So this is like across 3 separate high schools, but kind of the same group of friends, just because Houston is a small world. So pretty much the same group of friends, although it would grow or, you know, shrink or add in some new people. But I became known as like, you know, the kind of gothy emo, before emo was like the thing that is now. But like when emo was just like, you're sad all the time. You're always writing in your journal. Yeah. And so I just had a reputation of like, I could be kind of a dick because I would lash out at people if I felt threatened, because I was so used to guarding myself. And there's a whole like generation of people that went through school with me that I'm sure thinks of me in a certain way, because that's how I was then. I was really armored and defensive and mean. I was mean. And it was all a defense mechanism. Like, that's not who I am. Like, I'm a little grumpy and bitchy. I'm a Cancer, y'all. But I'm also really, you know, compassionate and caring and kind, and it kills me that there's all these people that don't know like the real me. But I mean, what can I do? It's fine. Like, ultimately it doesn't really matter that these people don't know the real me, but it's just sad, you know, because like if I could have had a different relationship with food, so during this time, anyway, so if I could have had a different relationship with food, a different relationship with my body, I feel like things could have been different. And not that like everything would be sunshine and roses, but like, you know, I was still a teenager. But it just, I feel like I could have engaged with people in more meaningful ways and in more authentic ways. During high school, I started my binge eating. Well, that's not true. That's not true at all. My binge eating started when I was a child. But in high school, I suddenly had access to borrowing the car and going to, you know, Taco Bell or going to whatever and like getting food on my own. I had jobs in high school, so I had some money. When I was at work, I could eat candy, you know, I could buy candy, I could do these things, and nobody knew because they didn't see. So my binge eating didn't start then, but it certainly flourished. My earliest memory of my binge eating was when I was a child and we lived in this one house. I'm trying to figure out how old I was. Probably in maybe 6th grade, maybe 5th grade, maybe 5th grade. And we had made spaghetti for dinner. And in our house, you could have seconds if you wanted. And nobody was like, no. Like, I didn't have to ask. I could just go get seconds if I wanted seconds. Which I appreciate, you know. I know that you cannot do that in every household, you know. There's like a lot of limitations that people sometimes grow up with. What you're allowed to eat, how much you're allowed to eat. So I went to get my seconds. But like getting seconds, like scooping it into my bowl was not enough. I started scooping up noodles and sauce and like eating it off of the spoon. Like, let me eat some of this and also have my second so I can have more. You know, like clearly this was a behavior. That's the earliest I can remember, but like clearly this had been happening. But I remember this time because I got caught. Because my dad walked into the room and he was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, ooh, I froze, of course, because that's what I do. Anyway, and I just remember him being upset. He wasn't mad. I think he was grossed out because I was like eating out of the pot. Like, duh, that's gross. And I didn't get punished. You know, I wasn't in trouble, but I knew it was bad and I knew it was wrong and I knew that it was something to be ashamed of. And so, the other time that I remember, so I tend to only remember times when I got caught. In junior high sometime, my family was at home. This is a different house, but not that that matters. I was making a snack and I was making a sandwich and I made 2 sandwiches. I said, I'm gonna make a sandwich, and then I made 2 sandwiches and ate the first one while I made the second one. And when I came out with my sandwich to eat it in front of everyone, I must have been in Weight Watchers at the time because I said something about, later after eating the sandwich when we were talking about like, I don't know, our points for the day or, you know, like whatever we had eaten. I said something involving the word good, like I've been good, I only had that sandwich. And my mom said, and whatever else you ate while you were in the kitchen. Because she knew. Because like, how long does it take to make a sandwich? Like, not as long as I was in there. Clearly I was doing something else. And this is not to like, I don't know, bash my parents. Like, man, I have good parents. And so I don't mean that at all. Like, of all the parents that I could have had, like, mine are fucking great. It's just that, like, and I, you know, I was not punished for it, but like, it's like a barb, you know, like I just remember, like, oh God, the shame of like somebody knew what I did. So the shame of secret binge eating like haunts me to this day. And so, so that was high school, and then in college, I moved out of my parents' house pretty quickly, and I lived by myself and worked, and then I lived with other people and went to school. I never lived in a dorm or anything, but I did live with other people. And I'm trying to think, I would eat with them, and I felt comfortable eating as much as I wanted to. Like, I don't do the thing where I only eat a little bit in front of other people and then like I binge a lot in private. My thing has been like, I'm happy to eat however much I want to eat, and then also I will then binge. And if I binge, like, you know, when you have a car, you can just stop and get food. If I binge and then I, you know, would go home, like this is true for then and now, like, so I guess I didn't talk about it, but like I am in recovery for my eating disorder. It's something that I actively work on, but I still do it. It still happens. It is a behavior that is not gone from my life. So I have made baby steps, and this is actually one of them. So previous to now, if I would binge and then I would go home to whoever I lived with at the time, then roommates, now my husband, and it was like time for dinner or we were all going out or like whatever, I would force myself to eat again to keep up appearances like I hadn't just eaten like a bunch of, you know, like chips and queso or french fries or whatever. And I would like physically be in pain because I just ate 2 freaking meals, and I would eat a little less, you know, than normal, but I would force myself to eat when I didn't feel like eating just so that people wouldn't know, because I was so ashamed. So that's a good thing. It's a baby step that I've made. You know, I have talked to my husband about my eating disorder, and so I've told him that like if I ever come home and you know, it's time for dinner or something, and you know, it's like we need to make it or we're gonna go out, if I've binged, all I need to say is I'm not hungry. And you, like, I'm never not hungry. So if I'm not hungry, it means I just ate. Or I can just say, I just ate, you know, so I don't want dinner. Or, I mean, I can just tell him. I can't think of like the language that I use, but he knows not to push. Oh, are you sure? You know, blah, blah, blah. Because in the beginning, before I really talked to him about it very much, I would just, oh, I'm not hungry, or, you know, whatever. And he would be like, oh, you need to eat, you know, it's, you know, blah, 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 you know, your body needs fuel. And then I would just like, be like, stop, I don't need to eat, you know, like whatever. And so that's not a healthy way to communicate. So I finally was just like, hey, here's the situation. I know you've heard me talk about my eating disorder. It is not in the past. It is an ongoing thing. And sometimes, you know, it happens and then it's time for dinner. So I just want to, you know, I want to be really clear about this, and so that you know how to interact with me in a way that is supportive, because he hates making me feel bad. And I was like forcing him into it by not being honest and clear. But it's really hard because there's so much shame about it. And luckily he's amazing and wonderful. Anyway, so that's one good, you know, step that I've taken, is kind of eliminating some of that, you know, non-communication, eliminating the shame by being vulnerable and, you know, sharing, because shame flourishes in the dark, right? Secrets are what fuel shame, and I'm trying to be less secretive, hence this video, which is really hard to make, as you can see, because I'm just like kind of crying the whole time. But here's the thing, like, I know it's not just me. Like, that's why I'm making this. I know it's not just me. I know that there are going to be some people that watch this and go, holy shit, like, this is me. And maybe they're, you know, still like in the thick of it. Maybe they're more recovered than I am. It doesn't matter. Just hearing someone else like saying things that feel familiar to you is really nice. It's validating. It's empowering. And this is, I mean, making this video is part of my recovery process of like bringing light to my history, is eliminating shame. So yeah, so that kind of brings us to where we are now. I still sometimes engage in binge eating. I know now what my triggers are, which is letting myself get too hungry, because I don't really like to eat breakfast. Sometimes I don't like to eat lunch. I'll go the whole day without eating. 4 o'clock hits and I'm like, need all the food now. So wherever I am, I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna get food and I'm gonna get a lot of it. And because I have this old habit ingrained in me, I'll order way too much food and then I'll eat it even after I'm not hungry anymore. I'll eat all of it. I'll make myself, you know, like feel physically in pain. It happens less now, certainly happens less now. When it does happen, I'm much kinder to myself. I've really worked on, sometimes I'll binge earlier in the day and then actually be hungry later. And before, I wouldn't have allowed myself to eat because it's like, oh my God, you binge so much, like you cannot eat again. But I allow myself to eat. So if I get hungry again later, I'm gonna eat food. I started eating 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So I don't let myself get to that point of extreme hunger where I just flip out and eat whatever, and then eat a lot of it. And that has been so huge for me, just eating 3 meals a day. You know, I don't love breakfast. I really like have to, you know, kind of force it down unless it's cold pizza, in which case I'm like, yes, let me eat all of it. So yeah, so things are much better than they used to be, but it still happens. And I know people like to talk about like, I'm in, you know, recovery from eating disorders and blah, blah, blah. And like, here's a picture of my food and I eat so clean. And like, no, this still happens. I eat, I try to practice, you know, a form of intuitive eating as best as works for me. But some of the symptoms of my PCOS means that I crave things that make my body feel terrible. So I have to kind of go against what my body is like craving or asking for and try to find things that will try to quell the craving, but also not make me have a flare, because I have IBS, or just like have like a awful like sugar hangover or something. I'm not interested in weight loss now. I finally gave up on dieting because I realized the truth and I understood the science. And there is real science, in case you don't know, there is real science that proves that diets don't work. And so this is a perfect segue into my thing about Weight Watchers. So scientifically proven that diets don't work. And it's scientifically proven that every time you go on a diet like that, where you lose weight and gain it back, lose weight, the yo-yo dieting thing, you damage your metabolism, which makes it harder for your body to, you know, regulate your weight in the first place. And so when we start dieting as a child, it gives us so much longer. I've had 35 years then to yo-yo diet and screw my body's chemistry up, right? And so it's like that much harder for me to regulate myself, to like feel intuitively what's happening in my body. Like, I don't know when I'm hungry. Literally sometimes I'm like, am I hungry? I don't know. Because I just feel like I've been so screwed up by dieting, and I used to try to like go as long as possible without eating. I was like trying to be anorexic, but I was really, really bad at it. But I would try to do this. I once went for 4 days without eating. And that, I mean, that was the longest I ever went. And I was like so mad at myself for not being able to go longer. And that was as an adult, you know, like by that time, I still thought that that was a good idea. Anyway, so Weight Watchers has this new thing. They've introduced a new, whatever, deal for them where Weight Watchers program is free for teens between the ages of 13 and 17. And they say that it's because everyone deserves access to blah-de-blah health, whatever, propaganda. And it's horrifying to me because children don't need to diet. Children don't need any more diet culture shoved down their throats. They don't need any more shame put on them. They don't need to start screwing themselves up even earlier. Our kids are so screwed up with body image and dieting and relationship to food. Like there's all these studies, like I won't try to quote anything because I don't know the exact things, but you know, kids in like what, first grade, second grade are already reporting that they feel fat. Where are they getting that from? They're getting it from TV, from their family, like from our crazy diet culture. The thing about Weight Watchers is that they're a company. Like Weight Watchers, whatever happy spin they put on things, Weight Watchers is a company. They exist to make money. Their business, if they really accomplish their goal of like helping everyone lose weight and be healthy and be so happy, whatever, they would be out of business. Weight Watchers doesn't want to be out of business. Weight Watchers is in the business of having repeat customers. So they don't want you to lose weight and keep it off. They want you to lose a few pounds, get that validation from our diet culture, and then gain it back and come back for round 2, round 3, round 57, whatever. People who are Weight Watchers people have been Weight Watchers people for a long time. Like, think about, it's crazy to me that people are still on this like cycle. It's not crazy, like I get it, I understand, but like also think critically about this. How much money, you know, does one spend cycling through Weight Watchers over a period of a lifetime? And now, if they can get these kids when they're young on the Weight Watchers train for free, they're like guaranteed to have those people as clients or customers later on in life. Because maybe they have that, you know, a little success. Maybe they lose a little weight. They get all that validation showered onto them from outside, because that's what happens anytime you lose weight, is all of a sudden, you look great. What have you been doing? Blah, blah, blah. And it just makes you, you know, you feed off of it. You want people to say these nice things to you. So then maybe you gain some weight, so you got to go back on it. Weight Watchers is a company. They're trying to make money. Weight Watchers is not a non-profit. They're not providing free access to their programming for teens just for, you know, giggles, just because they're altruistic. No, they're getting kids hooked so that they can bring them back as paying adults. It's very clear to me. They're not invested in people feeling happy in their bodies. They're invested, and the entire weight loss industry is invested in people feeling shame, feeling self-loathing, hatred. People make money off of us feeling bad about ourselves. Imagine if we all woke up tomorrow feeling great about ourselves, loving our bodies, being super happy. How many products would not be purchased? How many companies would go out of business if we just loved ourselves as we were in this moment? Okay, so this was my rant. I think it's super harmful, super fucking harmful for children to be on diets, for children to attend Weight Watchers. And I'm not, you know, blaming my parents or my parents' generation or like whatever. This has been going on for a long time. And they were doing the best that they knew in that moment. But here's the thing, we know better now. We need to do better now. Think about it. If this is offensive to you, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be offensive, but I really want you to think about what I said about the repeat customer. Weight Watchers is not in the business of making people love themselves. Weight Watchers is in the business of selling you this stuff over and over. Sometimes this stuff is hard to hear if you've not thought about it before. I'm not trying to, you know, be a jerk about it. I want everyone to wake up and love themselves. Like, I would love to see just people of every, you know, size and shape and background and age, like just every person in the whole world just like love their bodies as they are in this moment. And that doesn't mean that you would never want to change your body. You want to be stronger, you know, want to be more flexible, like whatever, want to have a stronger, healthier heart, like great. But on your way to that, love your body. And if love is too hard, because I get it, sometimes love feels too hard, honor it. Honor what it does for you. Honor how it works for you. Honor that it's been with you this whole time. Appreciate it. Send it gratitude. If love is too much, strike that from your language. Don't worry about it. Work on affirming your body. Honor, affirm, sending gratitude to, being kind to, all of these words. Like maybe that's easier for you to think about. So I'm definitely like just rambling. This has been a roller coaster of an emotional roller coaster of a video for me. I needed that breath. So this is not a super polished video. Like I'm very red because I'm feeling emotional. If you watched to the end, I appreciate it. I'm just like spilling my guts over here. I want so much to create a channel, to create a community where we can talk about this stuff. If you want a safe place to talk about things like this, please come join the Facebook community. I'll link it in the box below. You know, you could join and just check it out. You don't have to post right away, but if you have nowhere else in your life where people are having discussions like this, come join the community because you can talk about it there. If you don't have supportive people in your life who would welcome this kind of conversation, or who would welcome the idea of not dieting or not buying into diet culture, come to the community. You can talk about it there. And also I just want to say, if you're on a diet and you're feeling maybe a little attacked right now, I'm not trying to attack you. I'm really just trying to share my opinion and my story. I 100% believe in doing what is right for you, and I will do what's right for me. I really don't want to make you feel bad if you've chosen to go a certain route. So I'm sorry if this did, like, if you've watched my videos or been in the community, like, you know, like, that's not my jam at all. Dieting is not for me because I believe that it does not work. And I've read science that it does not work. If it makes you happy, and ultimately, like, that's really, you know, everyone's goal in life is to be happy, then you do you, and, you know, you make your own choices, I make my own choices, that's fine. All that being said, I'm gonna stop. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If it relates to your life, if it resonates with you, awesome. If it doesn't, then maybe you know somebody who it might, and you can maybe have a new perspective about their life or their feelings, their history. And if you want to share it with them, that'd be great. Maybe it could help them as well. And like the video if you liked it. Please subscribe to my channel. I'm almost to 1,000. I'm only a few hundred away, and once I get there, I'll be monetized. I'll be so excited. It can help offset some of the money that I spend on the channel, and I would really appreciate the support. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye.